You have reached your destination.
Guys, we're back in my favorite place on earth, the salvage auction. We're in LA today just because of what's inside this metal building, and I've actually been here once before to look at a $500,000 Lamborghini Huracan STO. But today, we're after something a little different. This place is notorious for totaled exotics, and we'll get to that in just a bit. Today, I'm here for a rack of Mopars, a Redeye, a Trackhawk, a Hellcat Durango, and one very special TRX that was crashed by Chicago drill rap legend Lil Durk. It's pretty obvious why the TRX is here, but the Trackhawk, the Durango Hellcat, they both look mint. There's no damage on the outside of them. We got a lot of work to do here to figure out what's going on with these cars. We all know the saying about looking too good to be true, but there have been cases where I've found something at salvage auction. It looks too good to be true. I buy it for not that much money and it works out incredible. Let's see if this is one of those times. Okay, so all the under paneling on the dash is off. Some wires hanging down there. One thing I can say for sure is it does not smell good in here. It's not listed as a flood car though. It's a very important distinction. There's nothing on this that says it's a flood car. The only bit of information we have to go on is that right there. It's listed as biohazard. Sometimes you see that on really bad wrecks for obvious reasons. That's not the case with this one. It just kind of smells like water got into it. It's kind of moldy, but kind of new car smell. The odd thing is the sunroof is stuck up. The passenger windows, though, are also down and now taped up. They're not broken out, they're just down. Other than that, though, it looks like it came straight off the dealer lot. You have a little bit of damage there, but on a total car, who cares? And it's also kind of wiping off with a hand. Wow. I'm not the biggest Durango guy, but I do recognize how rare and special these cars are. They pull a ton of money, more so even than the Trackhawks there. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think they made a lot less of these. A lot of times when I see a car like this and I have no idea why it's actually here, why it got totaled, why an insurance company didn't want to take care of this car, fix it, whatever, I'll go to Copart.com and see if we can find any further information. On here, it looks like they list the damage as vandalism. Usually vandalism cars look a lot like that. Obviously, it's not the case here. Again, being that the outside of this Durango isn't scratched up or painted up with shit, I really wouldn't have guessed it was a vandalism car just from looking at it. Maybe we get a little clarity by looking under the hood. Well, once again, no obvious signs of vandalism there. It just looks like a really new Hellcat engine. Everything about it, the tires, the paint, the brakes, it has a dealer plate frame on it. If I didn't know better, if I didn't smell the inside and didn't see it sitting here in this warehouse, I would honestly say that this car is ready for sale on a dealer lot. But I have to stress again, if you're looking at buying a car like this, use caution. There's something going on with it. They don't total $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 cars for nothing. There is a reason why it's here. If I end up buying this thing, believe me, I'm gonna do every bit of due diligence on it that I can. Given the current state of this car and the unfortunate fact that it doesn't have keys, I suppose there's not a lot left we can do with it at the current moment. Now hear me out, guys. I get a little bored when we look at a car like this and we can't figure out what's going on with it. I think we'll switch it up and we're gonna check out this Redeye here. After all, I am a car guy, not necessarily an SUV guy, though that thing is awesome, so let's get into it. Sorry, let me do things in the proper order here. It's a Hellcat, we'll do the important part first. Yet another really clean looking Hellcat engine. All the cars out here. It is California. It's not a Northeast car, something that's seen a bunch of salt, a bunch of damage. So pretty much everything I've seen out here so far is just really, really nice. A lot of the ones we see back home, back east, they just look kind of nasty. It's not the case with this at all. Not only that, but it's stock, which, believe it or not, unlike some other cars we deal with, is actually a good thing. These cars, through no fault of their own whatsoever, have a habit of falling into hands that don't really modify them the best way. Or drive them the best for that matter, which is how so many end up looking like this. But regardless, at first glance, this damage looks really light, but it is a $90,000 car, so it's obviously here for a reason. Like, say, this driver frame rail. You see it's kinked there? I don't know, what do you want to call it? 45 degrees? Yeah, that sounds about right. Alrighty then. hood latch, you're gonna need one of those. Being that we have that airbox crunched up there, we have some stuff down there, we have some shielding, we're not gonna be able to look back that far. We obviously can't get under this car. We don't have the means to put it on a lift while we're here, but from what I can see there, it at least looks really far forward. That means somewhere back there, say, quarter up the fender, you can probably section in a new frame rail piece. It's probably, keyword probably, because I don't know. I, again, can't look at this the best while we're in a salvage auction. I don't think it's gonna be that bad of a fix. That frame rail alone, clearly not enough to total this car, so what else do we have? We have the Redeye hood that's definitely not fixable. This is something you're gonna need to replace on its own, not that bad, not that expensive. We have the upper core support. That's damaged over here. This is a bolt-on piece, that's not bad at all. The front crash beam, they're a dime a dozen, but we do get a little information about the wreck it was in. I would suspect that if we put the hood down, it lines up perfectly. Of course, when you're buying cars at salvage auction, instead of just going to the dealer and saying, give me that, when you're trying to build something cool, when you're trying to hopefully at least save a little bit of money, it's super important to piece together the wreck as best you can. It's not gonna help you fix it any easier, but it will help you make an educated decision when you're trying to buy it, especially if you're buying it off Copart.com. Not seeing it in person like I'm fortunate enough to do with these cars here today, it's crucial that you understand what you're buying, that you get a good idea of how it was wrecked. That way you don't have a car that shows up on the transporter being 10 times worse than you expected it to be. As far as the front end goes, compared to what we've rebuilt in the past and what we see at auction, this is a really light hit. It does sound crazy to say that about something with frame damage, but in the salvage world, especially dealing with cars this expensive, it's not bad at all. You're obviously gonna need a fender, this wheel, and tire actually. They're damaged, it's flat. That can probably be repaired, though I wouldn't be surprised if you find more damage on the inside. The side skirt, that's missing. The back wheel is partially red. I don't understand that. We also have a bubble in it, so you're gonna need to replace that. I don't think that's related to the wreck, though I suppose who knows. The back end of the car, especially in this color, which I'm a big fan of, is beautiful. Well, almost beautiful, near beautiful. She's a 8 out of 10. Again, most of the suspension looks intact. This wheel here, it is curbed up fairly decently. Send that to the wheel guys, have them repaint it, no big deal. This side skirt's there, it's intact. This front wheel, flat tire, again damaged, probably fixable by your local wheel shop. Now, let's look inside. Dash airbag, driver steering wheel bag. The curtain bags are there and intact. Passenger seat bag is good. The driver's seat bag is good. Not only that, we have power. And it would be amiss if I didn't take a second to just admire the Redeye logo there. Now, of course, when a car like this has power and the ever important oil cooler fully intact, you know what that means. Oh no. I didn't see it. I got tricked by the fact that it had power. It doesn't have keys. No keys. That is kind of a shame. It is definitely kind of a letdown, but it's not that uncommon. When you wreck your car on the side of the highway or wherever you may be, it gets drug away by the tow truck. Who's to say you ever go clean it out? Maybe you don't give the insurance company the keys, and that's how they end up here with no keys whatsoever. Once again, that is a tricky expense when you're buying cars like this. Keep an eye out on the auction. If it says it doesn't have keys like this one, make sure you take into account the fact that you're gonna have to spend $200, $300, $400 at Dodge getting a key cutting program. Now, otherwise, the interior, we have ourselves what I suppose is an amplifier that was cut out down there. But other than that, other than the fact that we have a couple blown bags, which aren't the most expensive to replace, this interior is really nice looking. Black, generally not my favorite, but on a wild exterior color like this, I think it works. All in all, from what we've seen on this car, the somewhat light front end damage, the rear end damage that's not really damage, it's just a bumper that's popped off, I think this is gonna be a really easy fix for somebody. The only problem with that is, of course, it's gonna pull a ton of money at auction. Now keep in mind, when you're buying a salvage auction, paying up for an expensive car is not always a bad thing. Paying up for a top-notch Redeye like that I assume it's gonna pull like $45,000, $50,000 even being totaled. You're obviously gonna end up paying more up front, but on the backside, you're gonna save a ton of money. When you buy a top-notch car like this, it costs so much less to fix. If you, like me, have the terrible habit of buying the cheapest possible example of any car you can get your hands on, you know how costly that can get on the backside. Now, of course, I'm nowhere close to ready to apply that sound logic to my personal purchasing habits, but for you guys, especially if it's your first buy at salvage auction, I think it's a solid option. Sort of like using a top-notch VPN. Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN, the virtual private network that lets you become safer online with one click. NordVPN is the fastest VPN on the planet. One could say it's the metaphorical opposite of this thing. Not only will NordVPN allow you to browse the internet anonymously from over 5,800 servers worldwide, but their threat protection shields you from malware, trackers, and ads. Their dark web monitor will even notify you if someone leaks your credentials, which is great, assuming you'd like to prevent people from finding out that your password on every single platform is 123456. But wait, there's more. When you go to NordVPN/ScrapLife, you can get 4 months free when you sign up for a 2-year plan. With NordVPN, you can make those who are watching what you do online think you're browsing from, say, Serbia rather than Chicago, ensuring you stay one step ahead of the game. You can use NordVPN on your mobile device, your laptop, even your tablet to make sure you're protected on all fronts no matter where you are. And what's even more important to me, they don't track or share what you do online. They have 24/7 customer support, a 30-day money-back guarantee. What more could you want? So if you're ready to get serious about your online privacy, go to nordvpn.com/scraplife, sign up for a 2-year plan, and you're gonna get 4 months free. And now let's see what's up with this Trackhawk. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I suppose it depends how you look at it. Unlike the Durango up there, we do have a little bit of damage on this car. There's at least something that's been noted by insurance. It's maybe a dent. The hood truly looks fine to me, so I don't know what that's about. The front bumper. Okay, so maybe we don't really have any damage. Right here, okay, all right. We have ourselves a scratch. We're getting somewhere. The one thing I did notice, while I will have to block out this sticker here, somebody put a windshield in it very recently, or this is the original windshield and it's actually popped out, because if you look right there, this one, it's cracked. And if it's brand new, I wouldn't expect that to be the case. Painters taped in and duct tape. It looks like we're 2 for 2 today. Another biohazard car. This one. Oh. Alrighty. This one smells like shit. There's no other way to put it. Wow. You do see some mold down there. I suppose water got in here at some point. We'll go ahead and look around a little bit while I don't breathe. And then we'll come back out here and take a breath. All right, breathing exercises YouTube channel solidified. This is what we're doing now. So this is kind of an odd one. It's not a flood car. Once again, on Copart.com, it's not listed as such. As we did before, we'll go to Copart.com and see what's going on with it. Minor dents and scratches. It is listed as running and driving, and because of that, I don't think I'm gonna be able to resist just maybe sticking a foot in, hitting the brake, and trying to start it. And of course, it won't work any other way. The one I definitely do not want to get into is the one that has a key. But the engine, it sounds good, really good. Really quiet, which is what you want from one of these. No ticks, no rattles. Just like that Redeye down there, looks to be bone stock. Really, really nice condition car, of course, until you get to the interior. Good. Looking at this car online, if you weren't able to see it in person, this is one that you would think was here for absolutely no reason at all. You have to assume, though, as I said earlier, that when you see a car like this, it's going to have some different issue like that. That's stuff you simply can't pick up looking at pictures online, which is why it always helps, if possible, to get out here to a Copart lot and check out whatever car you want to buy. I can't lie, when I first opened the door to this car, I didn't have the greatest reaction. I thought it was going to be some moldy piece of junk, but the more I look at it, even though they left some stuff behind in the passenger seat, the car actually looks pretty nice. We definitely can't understate the fact that we were able to hear it run, and that takes a massive risk factor out of buying a car like this. On the Durango, there's no reason to believe it won't run, of course. There's no obvious damage to it. The engine looks clean, but we didn't get to hear it run, and we won't be able to at auction because of the fact that it doesn't have keys. With that said, as far as cars that I'd like to buy here, this definitely puts the Trackhawk slightly, or if we're being honest, not so slightly above the Durango. Add to that the fact that it is a better color combo. At least in my opinion, I like the red. Well, that's interesting. That looks like one of those theft protection stickers that's been scraped off. That makes me wonder something here. Let's check the door jambs. Oh, this is starting to make much more sense. We have ourselves a theft car, which is definitely not surprising in the Mopar world. We see it all the time out east. I got it now. This makes so much more sense. It's a rule that's almost without exception. Every single time I see one of these cars and it's a theft recovery, it's beat to shit. But we heard it run. It sounds good. It looks really good. And it has the keys, which is kind of odd for a theft car. I think this is one of the only theft cars that I've seen, that's a Dodge at least, that I actually kind of want to buy. If I were to, say, theoretically buy this Trackhawk and clean it up a little bit, I'd surely be into it a lot less than I could go out and buy a clean title Trackhawk for. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Would you buy something like this and pay a ton of money up front, something that needs a light rebuild, or in this case, just a really heavy cleaning? Or would you buy something like that guy right there? Yep, it's me from the future. I just want to give you guys a fair warning that in between the time that I looked at this TRX and when it was supposed to run at auction, some really odd stuff happened. We'll go over it all later in the video and talk about what it does to our chances of actually being able to buy it. Look, at this point, it's pretty well established on this channel what kind of garbage I like to buy. So I'm pretty positive that you guys knew from the minute we walked in here that this is the one I want. Take the Trackhawk, for example. It's a clean, respectable salvage title car that a person with good sense would buy. And then there's me. And if we're gonna be totally honest with each other, this truck's actually quite a bit nicer than the usual junk I buy. Origins of this TRX aside, we have a lot of work to do. One, we have to decide if this is something we could fix. Two, we have to decide if this is something we should fix. I'm not gonna keep you waiting. Let's go ahead and jump into the first cool thing I saw in this car. There's not much of an explanation needed there. This door is heavy. We all know wraps a dangerous lifestyle, especially these days, so it does make sense that it's definitely not something I've seen at the auction before. Now, if we stop and think for a minute, is bulletproof glass something that you or I need if we're buying cars from salvage auction? I'm gonna assume the answer is probably no. But hey, if it's something you're looking for, we finally found a car for you. Truthfully, it's probably a negative if we're buying a car like this. I don't know what modifications were done to the chassis, to the door frame, though it doesn't apply to this one as we'd be replacing it anyway. I don't know what they had to do to fit bulletproof glass in this. The windshield's completely missing. The rear window, it's knocked out, it's leaning back. Again, I don't know if they had to modify like the window frame. I think it goes without saying that I don't really know a lot about bulletproof glass, being that I'm not a rapper or, you know, the Pope, but it does kind of look like this may have held up to a test at some point. Let me know if that is what I think it is in the comments. The glass, yes, it was shocking to find, but in the grand scheme of rebuilding a car that's in this bad a shape, it's not really that relevant. So we're gonna have to move past it at some point, and with everything else going on here, looks like that point's right now. Being that I'm more of a car guy than a truck guy, I haven't looked a lot into these. I don't know how similar, say, the front frame section is to a normal Ram 1500, while obviously stuff like the grille, the front bumper, the fender, being that it's fiberglass, which is actually kind of crazy for a truck, that all is different. If we can take, say, the front frame for a Ram 1500, we're gonna save ourselves a ton of money. You can find those much more easily. The hood, which is definitely TRX specific because of that, it did get some damage, but unlike this fender here, I think you'd be able to fix this pretty easily. It is aluminum, so you'd have to find the right person, but if you're taking on a rebuild project like this, chances are either you are that person or you have that person. On something that's damaged this badly, we're not gonna go into stuff like the mirror. You see the mirror hanging off it, you know you're gonna need one of those. On the other side of the front end, that's damaged quite a bit less. You have some front bumper damage there. It really doesn't look too bad. The headlight survived. This fender over here, it's in good shape. It made it. When it comes to that Redeye up there, or pretty much every other car in this building, I can give you a pretty accurate guess of what it's gonna cost to fix it. When it comes to a truck, I'm moderately clueless, and that's putting it nicely. Those of you guys who work on trucks, those of you guys who rebuild trucks, some of them might even have been worse than this. This is where I need you guys to go down in the comments and let me know what I'm in for if I buy this thing. Does it need a whole cab, or is this something that we're fixing? Being a car guy, I would assume this operates pretty much like the A-pillar and say the rear quarter panel of a car. Is this something that we're cutting off and just replacing, or do we actually need to replace the whole thing? I know it gets a little bit tricky with the bed. I see bed swaps often. I see complete beds for sale. Something that's this bad, I have to imagine that we'd be in for a full bed replacement. You know, I had to check eBay Motors. There are TRX beds for sale. They're pretty expensive, but it's doable. Side note, the tailgate, other than that right there, that little bit of minor damage, actually survived and is in phenomenal shape. The rear bumper, again, other than a little bit of damage, survived. At least from what I'm seeing so far, there's nothing here that's gonna make me not buy this. Stupidity, ambition, I don't know, call it what you want. For those of you guys who didn't see the original pictures from this wreck, the car was on its side, and I think that's pretty obvious from what we're seeing here today. Over on the driver's side, it's pretty much the same story. The entire top of the cab, all the bulletproof glass, the door frames. Though these door frames over here, they don't look that bad. They may be able to be worked. I think we have a pretty good idea of what this truck needs on the outside, and the answer is pretty much everything. All right, for as bad as the exterior looks, the interior, it's fairly solid. Driver airbag didn't go off. In fact, the only airbag that did go off is the passenger seat. Before we get into the interior, we'll do the Lord's work here and go under the hood. Best I can tell, it's unmodified. Judging by this, am gonna assume that we're gonna find some type of stereo inside. This one is listed as not running, so we're not gonna get to hear it run, but let's go ahead and get into this interior and see what else we can find. On the inside, it has pretty much all the damage you would expect of a wreck like this. The rear view mirror's knocked out, being that there's not a windshield in it. It does have the key. I'm not exactly sure why they couldn't get power to it to start it. We have, I guess, an alarm, all kinds of stuff. We have, what is that? A CB radio? Check that out. That's wild. I'm just gonna go ahead and shut that. This is probably a great time to note that when we come out to auctions like this, we can't mess with anything in the car. We don't own it, at least not yet. But after you win a car at auction, you own it and everything inside of it. So maybe we will get to find out what's inside that steel safe one day. As for the back seat, again, pretty normal looking. It looks like at some point there were some parts here, maybe they sent it to a body shop, they considered rebuilding it. They obviously did not go through with it. Considering those power wires we saw up front, you do see what looks like an amp back there. We have a pretty awesome audio setup in this. This is a sub box that kind of looks factory. Whoever installed this audio setup did a really nice job. I'd actually love to hear it. Wow, this is something I actually just noticed. To go around the door frame as well, they bulletproofed that. They matched it pretty much identically to the factory stitching. That's actually cool. Shout out to whoever did this. That's a sick interior job. I don't know what I expected from a bulletproof truck, but to have it look almost factory, other than the massive windows, it's pretty awesome. I was checking to see what else was in it, and it looks like there's more storage. When I set out looking for a tow vehicle for the Demon, I did not think in a million years that this was the TRX that I might end up buying, but after seeing it, I'm not any less intrigued, we'll put it that way. The damage is bad, and it is everywhere, but I've been over this truck pretty thoroughly now, and everywhere on the exterior, for as bad as it looks, there's not a single place that makes me think this car can't be rebuilt. Even the suspension, the underbody, there's a lot that's bent, there's a lot that's broken, but there's not that one single thing that means this thing's destined to be a parts truck. The only question left, as per usual, what's it sell for at auction? Obviously, with a little bit of weird history behind this car, that might affect the price one way or the other. I tend to think that somebody's probably going to want to pay a little more for it just because a famous person owned it. This is definitely one of the more complex to fix TRXs that I've seen come across the auction block. Unfortunately, we do have to wait a little bit until this thing comes up for auction. Well, I guess it's about that time. We need to talk about that bulletproof TRX. Today is the last day of September 2023. I filmed this video in the beginning of May. When I originally filmed this video, the TRX was listed as coming soon to auction. It also had a book value on Copart of like $90,000, which is super normal for a TRX. Fast forward 3 months later, the book value gets blown up to like 180 grand. I assume that Copart or the insurance company didn't know what it was prior, figured out how much it cost to build, and priced it appropriately. More than likely, there was some kind of dispute between the owner of the truck and the insurance company. They wanted more money because they paid $250,000, $200,000 for it. I don't know exactly what that cost to build, but I have seen other similar examples go for crazy money when they're not wrecked, of course. Now, based on the adjustment we saw on Copart, it seems like the owner of the truck got their way. The insurance company was forced to pay out more. That's where the car sat for the next 2 months, and then it disappeared. It's no longer on Copart. I've reached out to all my contacts at Copart, the lot manager, some people in the marketing department. They all say that it has a chance to be relisted, but it's been placed on some type of hold by the insurance company. Copart can't even confirm that the truck's at the lot, so at this point, the truck's either never going to get sold or it'll randomly pop up at auction one day sometime down the road. Now, with all the uncertainty around the TRX, I decided to simply go buy another truck. I bought this Ram SRT10 that I have some wild plans for, but with that said, I would still love to buy this TRX. This is definitely a first for me doing this in a video, but if you own the truck, have the authority to sell the truck, or know who does, definitely get in touch with me. I would love to buy it. Let's make a deal. While I haven't got a chance to buy the TRX yet, it's hard to call this trip a waste. I did get a chance to look at a ton of cool exotics, and if you want to see what I found, I'll be posting clips on my other channel, which of course I'll have the link to in the description. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and let's all keep our fingers crossed that at some point you see the TRX back on the channel.